Star Trek, the ultimate franchise. These are the voyages of 3 veteran Trekkies, Rich, Ian, and Toby. Their ongoing mission? To explore the vast Star Trek universe, to seek out new perspectives and fresh debates, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. Beyond the final frontier.
Welcome to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with me, your host, Rich Matthews, with my Star Trek compadres, Mr. Ian Spelling.
Hey, guys.
And Mr. Toby Weidman.
Hello.
Today we're going to rank our ideal bridge crew. So if we were pulling together a Star Trek crew, who we would use? It should be fun. We're going to go through it by division, because whether or not they claim that the divisions aren't hierarchical in Star Trek, it would appear they are. We're going to start with security and tactical. This was a little bit of a rule break because you can have 2 here, because depending on which series you're in and where you are, there is often a tactical and a head of security. So I'm going to go first with my head of security, and that would be Odo from Deep Space Nine. I just want Odo on my crew, regardless. I mean, a changeling, sort of having your own T-800 available at all times. He's sneaky, he's suspicious, he's everything you want in a security guy. Also, he's funny and interesting, and it's just, I think he is a nuanced security officer compared to most Starfleet, and that point is made repeatedly on the show itself. In terms of tactical, there's only one person. It's Worf. For me, it's got to be Worf, because I do want someone slightly trigger happy, I think. So, because you can have plenty of people to counter that urge, but you do want someone whose first option is fire torpedoes. He's honourable with it, though. That's one of the strengths of the character, is that honour allows his aggression to be tempered and focused in the right way. And I would trust him.
Interesting.
So, Ian.
Yeah, very interesting, because I initially had tactical Tuvok and Worf as my security. On my little cheat sheet here, I switched them to Worf for tactical and Odo for security. So it's really interesting. I love Tuvok as a character, and I think he's really interesting, and I think he did a really good job, tactically speaking. But since this is one of those situations where the roles overlapped within the shows, that I would have to go with Worf on tactical and Odo on security. And truly, I would steal every word you said about Odo as to the reason why. I just thought he kicked ass and was really interesting with his decisions and was imperfect as well in the position. A lot of it was, what'd you say, trigger happy? That's kind of what you need in that position. Not reckless, but trigger happy works for me. Tobes?
I didn't split them because I didn't realise that was an option.
Only on this one.
So my initial choice, he might not be a merry man, but he is my head of security. It is Lieutenant Commander Worf. I did have in my notes that it should probably be Odo, because his abilities are better than Worf's, essentially. He wouldn't take up much space, could just live in a bucket on the bridge. But yeah, I just said Worf, he's honourable, he's loyal, he's brave, he's a warrior. I think he's an obvious pick.
I'm just gutted no one picked Tasha. Poor Tasha.
Yeah. She didn't really have long enough to...
So essentially we agreed. If you'd realised you could have split, you'd have had Odo and Worf.
Yeah.
If there's this much agreement,
we got a problem.
So anyway, moving to engineering, because engineering is one of those pull-out bridge bits, isn't it? Once we make a main cast member engineering, we should have a little panel at the back so that they can come on board and it's not just Jimmy Doohan piping in on doing some ADR. For my chief engineer, I ultimately went for Geordie. And this is one of those interesting things, and I've realised that when I start thinking about competency and what you'd want in the crew, I find myself going quite next-gen-y. Because I thought Scotty, but and then I started thinking about how, but they're older ships, and and Relics, he didn't really fit in, and he wasn't that adaptable, and he was better at triage. Really, what you want is it not to break down in the first place, but he is a miracle worker. What about the new one, though? And it's all a bit, and ultimately, I think I have more questions over Scotty, and it would be more of a sentimental choice for me. But I think it's Geordie, and I did think about O'Brien, but then I sort of find his role a bit muddied, because he's sort of de facto engineer, isn't he, of Deep Space Nine, but he started in the transporter and things, and also he's got...
No, he started on the bridge.
Oh yes, sorry, an encounter at Farpoint on the battle bridge. Yes, I remember. Fair point, good pull in red, even though technically speaking as an enlisted. Anyway, so Geordie for me.
Ian?
I am going with I have blank or Scotty. Now, I want to break something down here. Scotty, in the movies, Simon Pegg's version of it, is actually, for argument's sake, I'm going to get shit for this, but a better engineer than the Scotty that we see, because all we get is the miracle worker thing, and he'll do dumb stuff. And what they did to him in Star Trek V just killed me. But I actually and trust me, I love Jimmy Doohan more than anybody. But just in terms of what they did with Scotty, I actually thought that was an interesting character in the Kelvin movies. But I really do like Martin Quinn. I think he's terrific in the role. I just hope that they get him doing the job with less insecurity. You know, I want him to know he's got it, and can do the job. I think we're all waiting for that big defining moment where it sinks in and he becomes the Scotty we know. But my choice is Hemmer from Strange New Worlds. All right? I thought Hemmer got the job done. I thought it was fascinating that he was an alien. I thought it was really intriguing that he was blind, and all of these other heightened senses helped him get the job done. And he really didn't have a lot of time on the show. And I was so upset when they killed him off. And I was upset because I liked the character so much, and I was so much looking forward to what they were going to do with it, that I was doubly sad that, they nixed him. But that made the stakes on the show really interesting. I mean, this guy was in the posters. He was a full-on cast member. And I just thought he was a cool-looking character. I loved his voice, and his interactions with Nyota were lovely. The whole mentorship element, and more importantly, since we're talking about, here's your bridge crew, I thought he got the job done every time he needed to get it done. There wasn't a lot of doubt. He just got it done. So I controversial choice, maybe.
My chief engineer made model ships in bottles as a kid. He has been mentioned. It's Chief Miles O'Brien. I really wanted to put Scotty in there, but I thought if I'm going to have one Celt on the ship, it's going to be Miles. I like the fact that he's an NCO. He's down to earth, blue collar, everyman, father and husband, family man, great improviser, brave and can fight too as well.
Little bit of a racist though. Doesn't like those cardies.
With good reason, right? They got accents are pretty. We'll get onto that when we go.
The family man thing, I forgot something, which was to say that the thing with Geordie as well, I think the fact he's so unsuccessful with women means his priority is stay with the ship.
This is First Lady.
As Leah Brahms' hologram proved. Okay, so moving up a division, we're going from red/gold to blue. The only consistent colour across the divisions in Star Trek. The blue teal, whatever you want to call it, into the Sciences division. So first up is our medical officer, CMO, Chief Medical Officer, or Doctor, depending on it. And I surprised myself with this. I've gone with Julian Bashir.
Oh.
I really like Bashir. I always have. I mean, even in his callow early version, Womanizer, which is a bit icky, and when we talked about women in Star Trek in a subsequent episode, then that's a fair point in how Bashir's interaction with Dax and then any woman on Deep Space Nine. But he also deepened and became very, very interesting, and you got to see the full growth of this character, and he's incredibly good. And I can't think of a Doctor who made as many research breakthroughs as Bashir did on Deep Space Nine in terms of the things he discovered, the things he fixes, the souls, the circumstances he had to deal with in terms of alien life. He's shown moral fortitude,
He cheated though because he was genetically enhanced.
I was going to get to that. Before we get to the primary immoral thing he did do, which episode is it where he and O'Brien are on, with the Jem'Hadar, trying to heal the Jem'Hadar? It's season 4, isn't it, I think? And they get the chance to fix the Jem'Hadar's dependency on the Ketrasil Y. And Bashir wants to, and O'Brien takes a very different stance and in fact wants to leave and knocks him out and takes him. Yes, it's true. he was genetically engineered and lied about it, therefore was perhaps a little questionable there, but otherwise he wouldn't have been able to join Starfleet, and which, as we've had that explored again with Una on Strange New Worlds, I think if we're talking about the best bridge crew and competency, I'd like the genetically engineered super doctor. It would improve the cohesion of your crew, Toby, because you'd have Miles, his best mate. Ian.
My medical choice is Dr. Mbenga.
Oh, interesting.
My gut instinct immediately goes to the original series. I immediately thought McCoy. And I love his scene in Star Trek 4 with the woman, in the hospital on the gurney. Just typical, McCoy stuff. Then I thought, maybe the EMH is the doctor I would want. Lousy bedside manner aside, he knows everything, right? But I'm going to go with Mbenga. I think he's a great doctor, morally interesting, right? All the stuff with the daughter was fascinating. And he'd be my choice.
My God, Jim, I can't believe you picked anyone else. It's got to be Leonard McCoy for me. He's just one of my favourite characters in the whole of Star Trek. He's a doctor, not a choice.
Particular version?
It's the original series. I just think he's a great improviser, knowledgeable. He is led by his heart and his emotions, but that'll play into some of my later choices. But, he knows his stuff. He's a great doctor. He's a great surgeon. I agree that probably the EMH would be the logical choice, just because access to all medical knowledge, including anything Julian Bashir has created. Yeah. But, I can't. I've got to go with my heart on this one. I would want Bones on my ship.
Do you know what? It's the one, actually, this is weird and it's very particular, but the reason I discounted him very quickly was the Chancellor Gorkon scene in Star Trek 6. Because I found myself going, why the fuck do you not know Klingon anatomy?
Yeah.
Now, that's not necessarily, that's a writer's choice. That would have been Nick Meyer's choice, admittedly, so maybe not consistent.
And it was done for dramatic purposes. It was not done for the character.
No. And I understand that. The same way in the same film, Uhura's competency is massively undermined because she could bloody well speak Klingon. Weirdly, one of the times he's most proactively shown administering emergency care is that scene, and it's not good. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's right, but it hangs around in my head.
No. I wouldn't disagree with that, but I would say that's a writer's saying that's not a character.
It's very disappointed me.
I 100% believe that he would know how to save his life. So
yeah, he absolutely would.
All right, comms.
Having mentioned where her character and her competency is slighted, I'm going to be specific. Because of that very thing, the fact that Nichelle's incarnation again was slightly undermined by Star Trek 6, I'm going to go with Celie Rose Gooding's Uhura, who is just awesome. Uhura's brilliant anyway. Nichelle was, of course, great, but the one character that I'm walking away with beyond Pike from Strange New Worlds is this new version of Uhura. It's the best balance of, you were saying about the neuroses and the insecurities that they do with Scotty as well. She's had the best version of that, I think, where because she was a cadet and she came on board, and it's always because it always comes from an emotional, empathetic place. As a xenolinguistics expert, I think Uhura as a character is unquestionable. There might be other people who can man that station and maybe do that job, but she was the first. She's currently still the best in the current live TV series that's running. I just think that I can ignore the dancing with the leaves in Star Trek 5. A strong, competent, empathetic, learned should always have a place on my bridge.
I 1000% agree. Here is my list. And as you can see, Uhura, TOS, and SNW. So I'm not even going to add to it. I think she's fabulous on Strange New Worlds, and I think she was fabulous as a character on the original series, and I thought what Nichelle did in her very limited screen time was terrific, and what Celia's doing in her very expansive screen time on Strange New Worlds is just wonderful. I mean, she nails that character every time. And you can also see the characters around her starting to rely on her as a comms, as a person, and for other things too. they do need to be careful about the other things too element of it. You know, you don't want one person to serve 16 different roles on the same show. So they got to be careful about who they send down to planets and who they have do what. But we all know anybody's supposed to be able to jump into any chair and capably do the job and competently do the job. But
that's a reflection of the fact there's a little bit too much informality on Strange New Worlds amongst the crew. Just a little. It's a little bit too, like, it's a Buffy kind of dynamic sometimes. Well, just too soon and a little too much.
Okay.
There's circumstances where I think they just need, you would see Spock or whoever is tighten the command line a little, I think.
Do not disagree.
Well, boys, don't worry. I can keep a secret, but not in this case, because I agree it's Uhura. It's the original series for me, just because I haven't seen Strange New Worlds and beyond the pilot. Proficient, polyglot, but also, if you remember...
Polyglot. I get called out a lot for my vocab. Polyglot.
Okay.
Just noting.
But she did also...
Note that Ian's head is nodding. Go ahead.
She did fulfill other roles. She did actually man the science station a few times, and I believe she was on the helm as well. Not often, but it just showed that she wasn't just about language. But I think the cultural importance of Uhura is... And also, there's not really a huge number of like other people that you could put in that role, I don't think.
Hoshi is probably the closest.
Yeah, Hoshi, but like, is there anyone else that you can go?
They never did anything with Hoshi, unfortunately. She was much better in the alternate universe, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it is a reflection of our full agreement is a reflection of that. But equally, because it just goes to show, I think, to some degree, the strength of that character. It's that's actually they're really big shoes to fill culturally, and the impact and the importance. I think the character that's been given the best respect for subsequent casting has been Nichelle. Because Zoe Saldana and Celia Rose Gooding are both terrific. It'd be hard pressed to find anyone that would dispute that. So I think Uhura is the one absolute lock. Okay, so that takes us to science, where there are some more choices. Also, probably depends where other people land, other characters and their roles land. So my science officer, because I had to have her somewhere.
Dax.
My biggest Star Trek crush, but it's not for that reason. It's also because as a Trill, she has so much knowledge, depth of emotion, understanding of alien cultures, of different scenarios. She's a great problem solver. She's cool in a crisis, crucially. She's funny and engaging. She's good for crew morale. And I think that's something which sometimes you might not think about. Dax is very, very good at keeping people happy and lively and engaged.
Well, one of the things with her, normally I'm not going to jump in, but here, she was one of the guys and she was one of the ladies. And that's what made the character so interesting. She was also a young soul and an old soul. And I thought Terry Farrell did a brilliant job playing the character. She just emitted this sense of warmth and experience and wisdom, but also, as you said, humor. Everything was kind of like, I've seen that before in one of my lives. Here's what's funny about it, and here's what's important about it, and here's what's socially relevant about it. And I thought that was a good touchstone of a character for every beat that the show needed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I've got Worf on my bridge, and she can handle Worf.
Yeah. 7 was sometimes considered science.
Yeah, she sort of fell between roles.
Yeah. But no, Dax would absolutely be my choice.
That's why I had astrometrics in my original long list, because it was the way I could get 7 in.
Right.
Topes.
So I went a different way of all the souls I've ever encountered.
Oh.
His is the most human. It's Commander Spock, original series. I've got Bones on my bridge crew. I've got to have Spock in there as well. Logical, clever, keen intellect, ability to improvise, able to look at the bigger picture, can do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Or the one, by the way.
Timing is everything. That was particularly well done.
He's got telepathic abilities as well, which I think would be very useful. And Leonard Nimoy...
Just stay away from him every 7th year. Just stay away from him. Otherwise, you're fine.
Leonard Nimoy's portrayal of Spock, probably the reason why I love Star Trek so much. I was drawn in by that character. He is probably my favourite character in the whole of Trek, but specifically Leonard Nimoy's take on him. So yeah, he would be my choice as science officer.
There's something about Leonard Nimoy in that role that's incredibly nuanced and soulful. But I do think Ethan Peck's doing a pretty good job so far. And it will, in a recurring theme we keep having is sometimes it's more the writing that he's getting than his performance. I think I prefer Ethan Peck to Zachary Quinto, who was also good. I was a Heroes watcher, the series Heroes, which is what broke Zachary Quinto, so I could never jettison his role as Siler, the horrible bad guy, and so I was always slightly worried he was going to try and steal people's abilities.
I don't think the Spock character was right in those films. It's one of the reasons why I'm not as big on the JJ film. I didn't think it was a problem with Quinto's performance. I just don't think the character was the Spock that I loved. With the Uhura, it's maybe easier to play that role because her character was never really developed in the original series and even in the movies. Whereas Spock, I think, is a fully formed character. I mean, he had, so many episodes were based around him and his abilities and stuff like that.
I think you can make the counter argument though, which is that I think Ian already did. Nichelle did wonders with nothing. Often.
No, I'm not saying that, but I mean, there wasn't that much of a character. And so it's easier to rewrite that role, whereas with Spock,
right? And a lot of that is pure affection for Nichelle, and appreciation for what she tried to do with so little, as opposed to what was physically there. Yeah.
Okay, well, you can hang out with Spock while me and Ian have a pint of Klingon blood wine with Dax.
I've got other options, don't worry.
Which, at the mention of that, by the way, Blood Oath.
Yeah.
What a great episode with her and the old Klingons.
Yeah.
Terry I know for a fact, Terry had an absolute blast doing that episode. And to watch her interact with these three old guys as a fan of the show and just a viewer, I laughed my ass off. She was just totally comfortable with them, and they respected her.
I would have loved to have included Dax in my crew, but it wasn't possible.
When we talk underrated episodes, Blood Oath will be on that list, by the way.
Yeah, I agree with that. So one of those times, because I know a lot of people struggle with the Klingon episodes often, and it's one of those ones where Deep Space Nine did Klingons better than any other series, any other version of Star Trek by far. Mm-hmm. It's always worth acknowledging what a good job the Deep Space Nine did with races that were problematic for some people, the Klingons and the Ferengi, etc. So it's very, very smart. Okay, so we move out of science into the lovely golden hues of the operations division, and with a role that isn't present in all versions of Star Trek, but was in the original series, and also because it allows another cheat, which is the Navigator. I'm actually going to pick Ilea as my Navigator, continuing my theme of trying to take back the motion picture. I don't really have good reason.
Yeah, I would take it back and put it on the shelf, but go ahead.
Because we don't really see her do anything.
Toby, I want what Rich is smoking.
Except, Gorp at Vija. I want to give her a chance. I want to see. And also because it becomes sort of a non-role, and I know I've got someone on Ops who can probably do the nav as well. It was originally my way of trying to sneak Chekhov on board. But then equally, sometimes Chekhov, I don't know, sort of, isn't that great?
I think you just had the hots for Persis Combata, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, maybe. And she's Delta. And her oath of celibacy is on record. Okay, then. So what Navigator would you have, Ian?
Ortegas. I think she's a really interesting character. I believe that she will become more interesting if they give her more screen time. I like that she is a bit of a risk taker. I love the confidence that Pike has in her. Just a really interesting character to me. Now, if the show ended tomorrow, she falls into the Uhura category. We do not know enough about her. I see a really interesting character future for her if they go there with the writing. And I think Melissa Navia is a really unique actress because she kind of wears her heart on her sleeve and takes risks that don't always work. There are episodes where I'm like, ooh, that could have been played differently. And then there are episodes where I say, wow, nobody could have played that dialogue or action better than she has.
She flies the ship?
Yeah, she took this cliche line and has literally made a meme and a franchise out of it.
Yeah.
So,
My navigator is superior in many ways. He's fully functional. It's Lieutenant Commander Data. And I am aware that he fits the role of Ops much better, but he did do some navigation. We don't really need to say much about him, do we? I mean,
programmed in multiple techniques.
That childlike wonder, he would offer a lot to my bridge crew, and I couldn't stick anyone else in that role because I have someone else in Ops. So
I love that. I couldn't possibly because I've got someone else in his actual position.
Yeah. But he did do navigation. He did plot courses and scan planets and all that.
This is the grey area we get with this role.
Yeah.
At least mine actually was a navigator. That's all I'll say.
All right, but I want to start with you on Ops.
She's a tertiary adjunct of Unimatrix 1, and she's been assimilated into my ultimate bridge crew. 709 is on Ops for me. Because I couldn't put her on navigation because she never fulfilled that role, although she's sort of, I guess...
Astrometrics?
Isn't she technically a consultant? I mean, what is she?
No. I mean...
she's captain now.
She has multiple roles, right? She does science and engineering, so... Clever, resourceful, can access all the information gathered by the Borg. Good fighter, strong. 709 is in my Ops position.
Well, I think Ian and I are in agreement. There is only one Ops for me, and he's got to be on the bridge somewhere. So I respect the fact you got him elsewhere so you could have someone else in Ops, but it's Data all the way for me. Yeah, I can't imagine a Star Trek scenario where you wouldn't want Data around, unless it was an emotion competition, but even that sometimes, in later incarnations he's fine. And also because if you've got Data on the bridge, you've got Brent Spiner on the bridge, and that's basically a human jukebox, and will always make you laugh as well, so that's stepping out of universe. But no, Data is... I think it'd be very hard to make a case that Data wasn't one of the breakout characters from Next Gen, if not the breakout character in some ways. I know Picard's amazing and everything, but Data was dismissed initially as Spock Light, and then just thanks to great writing and to Spiner's talent, just grew and grew and grew and grew. And again, I think initially a lot of people didn't understand because he wasn't known. What do you know? I mean, if you watch Miami Vice and bits and pieces, he's around, but it's not known. And how brilliant that performance is, how controlled it is. And it's only later when you get to see different incarnations and him playing different roles, you realise, wow, he's actually quite a big actor, except as Data, which is a very interesting dichotomy, I think.
Well, that was one of the reasons why he initially was worried about the role, wasn't he? Because he was like, how do I play this character? But then, because of how he portrayed it, they then started writing more for him. He just got this amazing character where he got to express emotion by not expressing emotion.
And plus he can stay on the bridge all the time.
Right.
If you really want him to. Never has to sleep, never be there, do all the jobs.
Right. Well, in terms of pure character, and the role and function of the character, there's no question it has to be him. He's got most of the answers. He's got the percentages. He's got the gauging of distance. He's got the understanding of history and what can be surmised will happen subsequently based on what's happened in the past. He's got the science and the facts. And, again, later, a little bit of the wonderment and awe that makes him so interesting as, almost human, right? Pretty much. Which is why, to me, in that same sense as the EMH.
Yeah. You don't need both.
Right. But who do you want on your bridge in that specific role? How could you not want Data specifically because he's a machine?
There's only one risk. When he gets hacked, which happens more times than most people would like to acknowledge, he's a bit dangerous.
Yes.
Other than that, which all technology has to a degree, I don't want to reduce the argument of Measure a Man or go the wrong way, but nonetheless, it's the only thing. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a risk I'm prepared to take. I
would say that my Ops officer has access to information beyond Data because she's got everyone that the Borg's ever run into, and so knows about species that the rest of the crew won't have even met yet.
For the listeners, because they can't see me, I did a full Spock eyebrow raise at that.
Just gives her an extra extra bonus, that's all.
The final role in the ops division, this is why Ian played the loophole with putting Ortegas on the navigator, is of course helm. And for me, there's only one choice, and I imagine it might be the same choice for others, but I couldn't have anyone else flying the ship. No matter how many captains claim they're the best pilots or first officers claim they're the best pilots and take over and fly stuff.
Can I say my intro line then?
Go on then.
Before. Don't call him Tiny. It's Lieutenant Hikaru Sulu.
Indeed it is. Oh my. It is absolutely Hikaru Sulu. Without a doubt. Takei especially, it beams out trust and confidence that he's got your back, and he can fly anything and do anything, and he respects that ship, he loves that ship, he's very good within the crew, but there's more to him than that. Again, even though often there wasn't always a chance to show that in the show sometimes, but nonetheless, you think about that mellifluous voice of Takei's just made the most banal throwaway nothings feel brilliant. Even "Hi, Captain," it's you could listen to that all day. And so if you've got to have someone there flying the ship, safe pair of hands, very good pilot, but also just to make you feel confident in your role, in your crew, in the fact that everything's going to go well, I think there is no one better than Sulu at that for me.
I did note in my notes, I put, other than Patrick Stewart, I think he's probably got the best voice in Star Trek. Have you got anyone different, Ian?
No, Sulu, by a lot.
By a few
by
parsecs.
Many parsecs.
Jinx.
Wow. That is bizarre, man. That is bizarre. Yeah, no, he was a great character, still is, and I thought George nailed it. Again, it's another one of these instances of doing something with nothing, but the moments that he got in the movies, I thought were terrific. The moment that he got in Voyager was kind of cool, and I thought necessary for the character as well. Would it have been cool to see him with his own series? I was always rooting for that. But the thing that always gets me is when he is the captain of his own ship and comes to save the day, and Kirk is the one who acknowledges how great Sulu is. And, if you know the history of Star Trek and the issues between Shatner and Takei, that moment is even more so. Because, let's be honest, Shatner could have tanked that line if he wanted to, right?
Yeah.
And it adds so much to the movie that he's acknowledging Sulu's competence and heroism and timing.
Fly her apart, then.
I love that moment.
Ooh.
Yes.
Tingles.
Yeah. So, good stuff.
Just to add to that, I think he is a combination of Kirk and Picard, in that he's got the action side.
And he looks good with his shirt off.
Yeah, he has also got that kind of more thoughtful, less gung-ho, philosophical aspect that Picard brings to it. He's bored to command. No other choice for any of us. It's specifically the original series character.
But that wasn't in the original series, really. The seeds of it are there. I actually thought that in the movies, just the 4 minutes that George got in each of the movies for his own little bit, those really paid off. The whole, you were joking about it, but don't call me Tiny.
He's great in Search for Spock. He's absolutely great.
Right. And the outfit that they gave him and the way he struts in that thing. So I thought it was a very cool build to him becoming Captain Sulu.
There's a blip with Star Trek 5, but it's generally a blip, isn't it? So
for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. But I just...
Except McCoy.
Yes.
I think McCoy is given something really good to do in 5.
Yeah, well, they gave Dee a great scene.
It's one of my favourite scenes in the whole of Star Trek.
To completely endorse what you said about how good the performance is given the history, I always think of the Star Trek 3 scene when they're stealing the Enterprise and they're all on the bridge and it's quiet and it's those actors working with Shatner on that day. Everything that you love about Star Trek in terms of what you aspire to, this surrogate family that they represent, those 3 guys are doing it on that bridge on that day, and they sell that. There's nothing but adoration and devotion in the eyes of Sulu, Chekhov, and Scotty, and that is a triumph of performance. So should always be acknowledged, I think. Okay, so we move from helm to First Officer Captain. I'm going to go with Captain because I like the movie version. Captain Spock. I know he's science officer and I know he's good. Maybe it's an original series thing versus the films, but I just love that first officer role for him because it cements his relationship with Kirk. It sort of formalizes something that was already there, and it just makes total sense because, as we've discussed previously in previous episodes, here the three of them represent the ideal balance of what you need in a team in general, and probably not to exclude, but to say that crucially Kirk and Spock. And as you say, Sulu has that sort of balance, and there are other characters who bring elements of it. Some people argue that Picard does a similar thing of having a bit of both of Kirk and Spock in him. But for me, my love is that the movie interactions between Kirk and Spock, and that's where it came from. And so all the reasons you gave for him as science apply here, and all the reasons you would want, everything you would want to complement you as a first officer, Spock has got it. And he maintains the best of humanity with enough of the best of being a Vulcan to keep everything just right.
Respect.
That would suggest you have a different first officer, Ian.
No, respect. Totally agree. Nope. Don't have an argument. I mean, for a minute I thought Riker, because of the fully human element there. You know, he's funny, he's loyal, he will argue if he disagrees. There's some general heat in there. I also thought for a second about Saru, because that was arguably my favorite character on Discovery, you know, and I thought Doug Jones was brilliant in the role. But Spock, Leonard Nimoy's Spock, from the original series and into the movies. And I'm totally with you, by the way. I think you just said that the development of the characters in the movies was very well handled. Again, the movies starred William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, and then everybody else. It's just the practical reality of movie making. Even within the context of the big three, DeForest Kelley was more a supporting cast member. Yes, the whole ensemble is there, but if we're being honest, the movies starred Shatner and Nimoy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the arc of the character from the series to the movies, just in terms of being a character and then being a component of the ensemble of characters, not just the actors, but of the characters, was just brilliantly done. And I think in many cases, they followed Nimoy's lead. One of the things I've always found interesting about all of television shows, but also specifically Star Trek, is, you know, the writers write the characters. They create the characters. And then after a few episodes, they play to the actors' strengths or the chemistry they discover.
In an ideal scenario, absolutely.
Exactly, between the actors. And, you know, when they do that, that often benefits a show and the characters and the fans watching it actually at home. So I always just thought that, and I know it caused tension between, you know, Shatner and Nimoy and who had more lines and all that kind of a stuff. But bottom line, the chemistry between those two guys was fabulous. The chemistry between Nimoy and D. Kelly was off the charts. And then that combo of the three of them, nothing beats it.
Yeah, if I had to pick one scene that it sort of encapsulates it, it's in Khan when he and Spock are preparing to counter to use the prefix code. That's just what you want.
I thought you were going to say row your boat.
I thought you were going to say row your boat as well.
Oh no, it's the moment when he kicks his heels up in his jet boots. No.
Yeah.
No, it's that moment in Wrath of Khan when they are talking to each other, and when someone says first officer in Star Trek, as good as Riker is, it's that. That's the moment. That partner.
So obviously Spock is already in my bridge crew, so I can't
yours?
pick him. So I've possibly cheated a little bit in that I picked someone who is not Starfleet, but the prophets will surely smile on my choice. I've gone with Major or Colonel Kira Nerys.
She gets a uniform. It counts.
Passionate, compassionate, moral, outspoken, a strong personality, which I think will work well with my captain. Good foil. Tough, fierce fighter, tactically astute, and she can bring something which I don't think anyone else in my British crew can bring, and that's a knowledge of guerrilla tactics and guerrilla fighting. So yeah, if we ever do get into a fight, Major Kira's there with Worf by her side.
You want the former terrorist on your side.
Well, terrorist, it's
one man's terrorist,
terrorist to one person,
fighter.
freedom fighter to another.
Yeah.
Takes one to know one, right? Yep.
That is a very interesting choice. Kudos to you. That's a good one.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
No, it's making me rethink. It's one of those things that make me go, yeah. Well, that only really leaves the big one, the centre seat. Who is it going to be? Now, this was surprisingly hard for me.
I thought we were going to do best hair. I had Pike written down for
well,
best hair.
Well,
it's changing though, right?
Surely, isn't it?
It's different every season. The third season.
But did you see when they had him be a Vulcan?
Yeah,
it
like
was
this
even
wall.
higher.
It was Johnny Bravo.
I thought I was watching Close Encounters and it was Devil's Tower.
But this season he's got these weird. I don't know. I'm like, I get it. He's got good hair. But as a man who, I like good hair. But still, like, bloody hell. Sorry, guys. No, trigger warning for follically
challenged if you.
Well.
Do you want me to go first then? Because my captain was easy. I didn't.
Oh yeah, go.
It's interesting. You kind of picked up on this, but there's a Vulcan quality to the man, but he's not a Vulcan. It's Jean-Luc Picard for me. Decisive, thoughtful, passionate explorer, lover of mysteries, great communicator and diplomat. He's a strong leader. I think there's absolute authority when he's on the bridge, but he's also willing to listen to other people's ideas and take them on board. Kirk would be second. He's the action hero, but Picard is definitely my choice. And I would love to see Picard and Kira interact as captain and first officer, I think. Briefly. But
no, I'm just saying, we all know where Ro is supposed to go to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. But I think Kira and Ro are very different characters, actually, when you look at them.
They are. No, agreed. And they might not have been, which is a good thing, but as we know, Deep Space Nine did a great job. I came very close to picking Pike, then Strange New Worlds Pike, which was like baffling to me. But again, I think that shows what a good job Anson Mount is currently doing, how brilliant that character has become. But I could surprise myself. I'm going to pick Janeway as my captain.
The mad son of a bitch.
Well, you say that, but
from last episode.
but she's a bit taciturn. She can be a bit pinched. She can be a bit alternatively crazy sometimes and make hard choices. But she loved her crew and that ship, and she would do anything for them. And while if you're a Starfleet captain, prime directive, if you're Picard, apparently your commitment is to the truth first, rather than anything else. There's one takeaway from Voyager for me, it's I love Kate Mulgrew as Janeway. I love her tone, I love her delivery. She had a tough gig as an actor going into that, in terms of making that work, and I think she did a absolutely incredible job. But also, show me any captain in her circumstance who wouldn't make difficult choices. I mean, look at, if you want to talk about being a bit of a mad dog, some of the decisions that Sisko made in the Dominion War were equally bonkers and morally grey as anything Janeway did.
I think Janeway's more obsessive, though. I mean, maybe that's circumstance.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, the way that in Equinox, her reaction in that, and it's like, no, we're gonna get this crew.
But you balance her out with Spock as my first officer, and we know she likes a Vulcan because of Tuvok and that close relationship. So it's talking about composition. I sort of feel like with Spock as my first officer that Picard doesn't really need it. I've got someone like Sulu. I don't really need Kirk necessarily. I mean, Kirk is the heart's choice. Any glibness aside, I think she's a solid captain, deals with traumatic, difficult circumstances better than most people ever could dream of, and was absolutely committed to keeping her crew safe and getting them home. And I can't think of anything more admirable. And she became an admiral, so cool.
I had a tough time with this. For the record, Sisko and Picard were 4 and 5 for me.
Oh, really?
Okay. So my number 3 choice is actually the controversial one. It would be Captain Jellicoe.
Oh God, you like a fourth shift, basically.
If you got to take this crew that we have put together and put somebody in command, and you want to win your battle or whatever, go on your mission, he's a hard ass and he will get shit done. And it would also create great drama if there was a show with him as a captain on an ongoing basis. And my guess is he would be a lot like Shaw over time and possibly, take it down a notch or two.
But he tried to kill RoboCop. I
know. He's a great actor. I mean, brilliant in everything he's done. So he'd be my wild card. Janeway was actually my number 2.
Okay.
I'm going with Kirk. Kirk is the man. He is the OG captain, other than Pike, obviously.
No. In true terms.
In true terms,
well, he's
Kirk
the
is
goat
the guy.
to use that term then.
Correct.
I mean, Archer, really, but...
Just thought to every description that you used of Janeway, I really could apply that to Kirk as well. He was loyal to his crew. He was smart. He was good in crunch time. He was very human and humane. And he could also be, a son of a bitch when he had to be. I got to go with that. And I just want to really quickly say, when I did this list, I did it from top to bottom instead of bottom to top, which we're going over now. And I realized very quickly that everything that my first choices were going to be, about half of this was going to be the original Star Trek.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look, I went with Kirk, Spock, Sulu, Uhura, and then I had Scotty as the backup on my engineer. I had, interesting to me. A part of that is just my pure affection for the original show and the characters that were established on the original show, because everything else followed. Whether it's a prequel or not, or a sequel or its own show, everything followed from what our favorite actors established as our favorite characters.
Absolutely.
On the original show. So, Kirk. No question in my mind. Kirk.
In the end, I'd like to watch Kirk on this ship. I'd prefer to be on Janeway's. It's kind of a weird way I came to it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get it.
Well, brilliant. I think, again, that was more varied and very interesting, I think. And also, crucially, representative of a lot of the shows. There was only one show that didn't have anyone really in contention, I think. Well, 2. Enterprise and Discovery didn't. Well, Saru was mentioned. That's not true. Saru was mentioned. So that's fair enough.
I will tell you that only because I could never really figure out what her position was. For ops, at one point I had Tilly down.
Oh yeah, but she was sort of a trainee.
She was
a cadet, and then all of a sudden she's training people for Starfleet.
Yeah.
So I took her off, but initially I had her down under ops because I didn't know where to put her. And then I had Data going back and forth because what the hell was he on the show? So I finally dropped him into ops. But now this is a fun one.
Well, on that note, thank you for listening to this episode, and join us next episode to travel beyond the final frontier. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with Rich Matthews, Ian Spelling and Toby Weidman. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us on beyondffpod@gmail.com or check us out on social media. You can even join our Patreon at BFF Beyond the Final Frontier. Huge thanks go out to Alex Weidman for the brilliant original music. Please search Alex Weidman Composer on YouTube to hear the full fantastic theme and more. Also thanks goes to award-winning voiceover artist Cissy Jones for our excellent opening monologue. Find out more about her incredible work at cissyjones.com. And of course, last but not least, our brilliant artwork comes from the designer Russell Seal. Discover more of his work on behance.net/Russell Seal. Thanks again, and see you next episode, Beyond the Final Frontier.